Hello, my name is Deborah Cavanaugh Grant, Local Food Systems and Small Farm Educator with the University of Illinois Extension. The topic for discussion is aggregation in food hubs. After World War II, fruit and vegetable production changed dramatically in the United States, mirroring an overall agricultural trend towards larger scale and crop specialization. Farmers in many parts of the country shifted toward commodity production and away from small-scale specialty crop production. In Illinois and many other states, this shift resulted in scaled-back fruit and vegetable production. Part of this was due to stiff competition from large-scale growers in warm weather states that had a competitive advantage. In addition, federal agricultural policies and subsidies also encouraged farmers in Illinois and other Midwestern states to move towards grain production. This shift in scale dramatically changed the agriculture and food supply chain. Many of the packing houses that served produce growers went out of business and severely curtailed the markets for smaller scale vegetable and fruit producers. Without access to appropriately scaled post-harvest handling, processing, and distribution, growers slowly moved away from the diversified fresh market crops, resulting in a diminished supply of local and regional produce for large markets like Chicago. The current industry structure shows trends that have transformed the U.S. agriculture and food industry. Now, almost every step in the current value chain is driven by national, large-scale businesses. Value chains are systems through which products flow from producers to consumers, with each link adding value along the way. They include upstream players, which are closer to the production end, as well as downstream players that are closer to the consumer end. What are the emerging roles for food hubs? Food hubs have emerged as critical players in establishing and building strong local and regional food systems. Food hubs can provide efficient local and regional value chain linkages at a vastly reduced scale compared to leading industry players. They also create opportunities for small to mid-sized producers to reach wholesale markets, that critical 99% of all food sales. Food hubs can serve as aggregator, processor, and distributor, but not all food hubs play every role. Establishing the value chain through aggregation is often the first step in food hub development, and distribution and processing services may be added depending on local needs. Today we'll discuss learning about the concept of a food hub, learning how aggregation can be beneficial to local growers, and determining how to incorporate aggregation into your business. In a 2010 report by the USDA Economic Research Service, it was noted that one of the main constraints to the entry and expansion of local foods is the, quote, lack of distribution systems for moving local foods into mainstream markets, end quote. This need has spawned the creation of collaborative supply chains to market these differentiated products. One emerging collaborative model is the food hub. Today we'll discuss a few of the issues and opportunities regarding food hubs. We'll discuss what is a food hub hubs is rural development, local foods buzz, everywhere is a local market, and food hub as a community entity. USDA's working definition of a regional food hub is, quote, a business or organization that actively manages the aggregation, distribution, and marketing of source-identified food products, primarily from local and regional producers, to strengthen their ability to satisfy wholesale, retail, and institutional demand, end quote. In the past few years, there has been increasing recognition of food hubs as a way for a group of producers to access local markets for their agricultural production. In many cases, food hubs share information with end users on where or how food was produced, providing a greater connection between producers and consumers. At the core of a food hub is a business management team that actively coordinates supply chain logistics. Some food hubs work on the supply side to support and train producers in areas such as sustainable production practices, production planning, season extension, packaging, branding, certification, and food safety, all of which is done to enable these producers to access wholesale customers, such as buyers for food service institutions and retail stores. Simultaneously, food hubs also work on the demand side by coordinating efforts with other distributors, processors, wholesale buyers, and even consumers to ensure they can meet the growing market demand for source-identified, locally or regionally grown products. What are the characteristics of a food hub? First, coordination of the aggregation, distribution, and marketing of locally produced foods from multiple producers to multiple markets. Secondly, using one or more product differentiation strategies to ensure the producer can get a good price for their products. Third, financially viable. Fourth, a positive economic, social, and environmental impact within the respective community. And lastly, working with its value chain partners to achieve common financial and social goals. For a current listing of food hubs, check out the National Good Food Network, U.S. Food Hubs map, at the UR listed below. Food hubs as rural development. Food hubs represent a strategy for producers, particularly small and mid-sized producers, to market their production locally. Food hubs can create new marketing opportunities for rural food producers too. They help connect rural producers as directly as possible to rural, suburban, and urban markets. Entry into local food markets can prove difficult for many farmers, particularly small and mid-sized farmers, with capacity constraints and the lack of distribution systems most often being the largest hurdles to overcome. Food hubs are part of a growing local food system that strengthens rural economies by lowering entry barriers and improving infrastructure to create as well as expand regional food markets. They can also create rural jobs. This rural on and off farm employment can expand opportunities and encourage skilled people, including youth, to remain in rural areas. Over the past 10 years, there has been a surge in demand for locally produced foods. The availability and amount of local food products are unprecedented in recent history. Consumers' decisions to buy local or purchase items for specific product characteristics have proliferated into new marketing opportunities for farmers. In addition, local direct marketing opportunities such as farmers markets, retail food cooperatives, and community-supported agriculture have grown as consumers have been increasingly looking for local and regional foods. A National Grocers Association survey conducted in 2014 stated that supermarkets aligned with local food sources can attract shoppers who feel food loses less nutrition and taste by traveling less, and who want to support the local economy and nearby suppliers. A combined 87.2% say this is very or somewhat important to their choice of a primary food store. This figure is up slightly from the 2013 level of 85%, and it nearly equals the 2012 peak of 87.8%. The increased demand for local foods is evident in the growth of direct marketing channels and in the number of farmers using those channels to move their products. USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service lists 8,268 farmers markets in operation in 2014, up from 8,144 the previous year, for a one-year increase of nearly 1.5%. Many diners expect their restaurant experience to include a selection of dishes conceived from local products. In the National Restaurants Association Top 20 Trends for 2014, number 1 was locally sourced meats and seafood, and number 2 was locally grown produce. The USDA Economic Research Service identifies supply chains based on the proximity of producer's transaction to the consumer, which may be 1. A direct producer to consumer, or 2. Intermediate with one or more middlemen handling the product before it reaches the consumer. What differentiates this new generation of community-based food hubs is the focus on shortening the supply chain and often delivering more than just economic returns. For some of these community-based food hubs, the intended benefits may extend to a social good, environmental stewardship, or capacity building for a group of agricultural producers. Now, after our very brief discussion of issues and opportunities for food hubs, let's discuss how food hubs are classified. Regional food hubs are generally classified by their structure or their function. In terms of structure or legal status, there are 5 classifications. The first is privately held food hubs, a limited liability corporation or other corporate structure. Second, cooperatives. These are owned either by producers and/or consumers. Third, nonprofit organizations, which often develop out of community-based initiatives. Fourth, publicly held food hubs, often the case where a city-owned public market or farmers market is carrying out food hub activities. And lastly, informal. Food hubs can functionally be categorized by the primary market they serve. These markets can be delineated as a farm-to-business or institutional model, a farm-to-consumer model, or a hybrid model, which is a combination of both the farm-to-business and the farm-to-consumer models. Under the farm-to-business or institutional model, food hubs sell to wholesale market buyers, such as food cooperatives, grocery stores, institutional food service companies, and restaurants. Under this model, food hubs provide new wholesale market outlets for local growers that would be difficult for them to access individually. While this is one of the primary purposes of a food hub, some food hubs focus on the farm-to-consumer model. In this case, the food hub is responsible for marketing, aggregating, packaging, and distributing products directly to consumers. This includes multi-farm community-supported CSA enterprises, online buying clubs, food delivery companies, and mobile markets. Under the hybrid model, the food hub sells to wholesale market buyers and also directly to consumers. Now let's discuss the functions of food hubs. These include market access for local foods, storage and packaging, information flow and sharing, transportation and distribution, brokerage services, increasing market share, maintaining a consumer-producer connection, and technical assistance and producer development. Market access for local foods. A primary role of a food hub is to facilitate access for agricultural producers to marketing outlets, retail or wholesale, that would otherwise be less accessible or completely inaccessible due to scale or location of the food production with respect to the market outlet. Similarly, the food hub also addresses the consumer side of the equation by making it possible for local consumers to access local producers. Storage and packaging. As we previously discussed, USDA defines a food hub as a business or organization that is actively coordinating the aggregation, distribution, and marketing of source-identified locally or regionally grown food products from primarily small to mid-sized producers. A food hub may provide the core services of a packing house and/or aggregate and distribute farm-packed product. A packing house is a facility that handles raw produce immediately after harvest and prepares it for delivery to customers. The core services of a packing house include cooling, washing, grading, packing, and storage. Additional services may include harvesting, farm pickup, customer delivery, sales, and marketing. Information flow and sharing. Sometimes the food hub's only role is to create and maintain a flow of information between the buyer and seller. Often, however, food hubs work with producers or markets that require more than just information or a distribution channel for products. When producers enter new markets through new mechanisms, their education and support needs may begin well before their products arrive at the warehouse. These facilitating or intermediary functions range from transporting products from the farm or warehouse to the buyer to building capacity among participating producers. Transportation and distribution. Getting product from a production or aggregation point to the designated market outlets is one of the costliest and most complicated aspects of operating a food hub of any kind. As such, these arrangements need to be assessed carefully. A firm may need to consider spreading transportation costs in several ways to remain profitable on a per-trip basis by putting more of a high-margin product on each load transported by truck. It can also reduce per-unit fuel costs by moving larger loads of food over shorter distances. Backhauling is an option for creating more efficient transportation networks that move produce to and from a hub. This entails arranging for product to be loaded into the transportation vehicle for either the initial or return leg of the delivery or pickup trip, such that the vehicle is always carrying a revenue-generating load. Brokerage services. Food hubs may also play the role of matchmaker by connecting farmers with the correct market outlet to fit their scale of production and their production practices. In brokering, food hubs never handle products, but instead help to link farmers with distributors and to market their products. Increasing market share. A growing type of food hub involves the bundling of product through a multi-farm CSA, community-supported agriculture. The clear advantage of a food hub designed around a multi-farm Dropbox program is that the program allows small and medium-scale farmers to reach a greater number of consumers directly. This type of hub also eliminates the need for each farmer to grow a diversity of crops to meet the customer needs of any one CSA. The disadvantage is that by involving an intermediary, such as the Dropbox consolidator, farmers lower their margins compared to what they would otherwise receive if they marketed directly to consumers at a farmer's market or through their own CSA. The food hub can extend the quantity of offerings to those consumers who expect a greater variety and or less seasonality in the availability of products as opposed to being a member of a specific CSA. Strategies to help producers increase their share of the local foods market include extending the season by coordinating existing product lines to guarantee more consistent supply of local foods over time. Maintaining a consumer-producer connection. Increasingly, the food hub model is being adopted to establish and retain consumer connectivity to local farmers. There are CSAs that work to have a more personal touch with consumer members. For example, there are multi-farm CSAs that allow customers to choose a CSA from a particular farm or a few farms working together. The food deliveries contain produce from only the selected farm or farms. These multi-farm CSA orders are packaged by a consolidator. This type of CSA offers consumers greater variety and flexibility on delivery, which can occur weekly, semi-weekly, monthly, or seasonally. There are examples of cooperatives that incorporate this consumer connection as part of their structure. As part of their services, the cooperatives send out weekly newsletters to members, conduct education classes, look for value-added products that consumers request, and organize market days for their producers to meet directly with consumers. Technical assistance and producer development. Some food hubs place particular emphasis on building production and or marketing capacity among their producers. The local food hub in Charlottesville, Virginia works with more than 60 small and mid-sized farms within a 100-mile radius of Charlottesville. The hub provides an array of resources to help orient producers to new markets, including networking, liability and traceability coverage, access to refrigeration and freezer storage space available for rent, discounted seeds, and discounted website development. The hub also educates consumers about local foods and participates in educational events and workshops. Producers say that they have increased sales by an average of 25% by working with the hub, which has reinvested more than $850,000 in the local farming community since its inception. I'd like to take this opportunity to share some information about three of the food hubs in Illinois. The first food hub is the Stewards of the Land. The mission of the Stewards is to create, maintain, and support the family farm, to help them become and remain sustainable and profitable, and to provide the same opportunity for future generations. To provide fresh, healthy, chemical-free foods of the highest quality directly to the tables of those who have a deep sense of appreciation for the connection to the land. They are committed to a sustainable future for our families, our land, and our communities. Started in 2005 by Marty Travis, fruits, vegetables, poultry and meat, grains and flour, collected from the Stewards, is driven to restaurants and grocery stores throughout central Illinois and Chicago. For more information about the Stewards, check out the URLs below. The Good Earth Food Alliance emerged from a need for small growers and producers to work collaboratively to help meet the needs of a burgeoning local food movement. By avoiding duplication in their planting and harvesting, and assisting each other through the challenges of the growing season, they aimed to see more locally produced food on plates throughout central Illinois. Through a chemical-free means of growing, they produce a wide variety of fresh fruits, vegetables, and herbs. For more information about GEFA, see the URL below. The mission of Gourmet Gorilla is to strive for a sustainable future for our children by providing local and sustainable school lunches and healthier eating options. They are committed to working with community partners to provide solid nutrition for all children in order to help them learn and grow. Collaborating within regional food systems around the Chicago Food Shed, Gourmet Gorilla works with food hubs, rural farmers, urban agriculturalists, dietitians, nutritionists, talented chefs, and organic food manufacturers. They provide quality ingredients as well as connections and partnerships to educational resources on healthy food curriculum, the value of fresh, healthy, and sustainable food, gardening projects, and ecological awareness. For more information about Gourmet Gorilla, see the URL below. We've discussed issues and opportunities with food hubs, learned more about their characteristics, how they are classified, and how they function. Now let's briefly discuss how you can put these ideas to work. Food hubs can be as simple as a collaborated effort between two growers. For example, a chrysanthemum grower and a pumpkin grower. Each of these growers can focus on producing a high-quality product, but still collaborate to make a logical pairing of products. What could you do to collaborate with another grower? How could you put this idea to work on your own farm, in your own business? What could you do to collaborate with another grower? Perhaps you might consider the multi-farm CSA concept that was discussed previously in the presentation. Do you have an agritourism business? You could consider selling products from other people's farm at your business, or they could sell your products at their agritourism business. How about a joint farmers market stand? You could increase the number of markets where your product is at. Do you have any other ideas? In summary, food hubs can take on many shapes, but in the end, it is multiple producers to multiple markets. Aggregation can allow your products to get to larger markets you might not be able to reach independently as a grower. The next three slides are resources that may be of interest. Many of them come from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A really excellent resource is the National Good Food Network, the Food Hub Center, and also the Michigan Food Hub Learning and Innovation Network. The next two slides show webinars produced by the National Good Food Network that may be of interest to you. For example, the Food Hub Benchmarking Study, the Food Hubs in Farm to School, the State of the Food Hub It was a national survey done by the National Good Food Network, and a really excellent webinar on how to start a food hub. Successful hubs share their stories.